A thread by Carlos Oswita. Let Gabriel Sherman show you the mind-boggling stupidity of leftists. These people are crippled by idées fixes, fixed ideas, ideas that can't be modified. Gabriel Sherman tweets, Trump has started to blame Kushner for campaign meltdown, per source. Also, in private, Mattis told people that Trump is a proto-neo-fascist. None of them have a clue about what Jared Kushner has accomplished. Of course, Donald Trump won the 2016 election, but Kushner devised the mechanics of victory by finding electoral votes that nobody even thought of looking for. Kushner helped draft a Middle East peace plan that is being implemented even as we speak, under the radar. He does virtually everything under the radar. That's why he's present at almost every round table. The participants all say right in front of the press that Kushner has been instrumental in getting things done. But that's where the idée fixe comes in. Here's what the press hears in the round tables. Charlie Brown teacher trombone voice is the YouTube video that Carlos posts. The press and other idiots simply refuse to grasp the reality of Jared Kushner, despite the overwhelming evidence that world leaders, captains of industry, law enforcement, civic leaders, and too many others to count do take him seriously. Does the press think everyone is pretending? As my brother says, if you can't diagram the thought process, it means that the thought process is totally insane. And as always, too many spineless Trump supporters believe the polls. They've forgotten 2016. People simply want to be passive and afraid because they lack the character to assume the responsibility that comes with proactive fearlessness. During the 2016 recount, I had to tell people hundreds of times the recount doesn't matter. Michigan quietly certified and sent in its electoral votes, which puts Trump over 270. Pretty simple statement, easy to understand. But what if? There was no what if. Trump won. The recount wouldn't change anything. It was not possible to delay the Michigan electoral votes. They were in. End of story. But people still had to panic. They could not be reassured. So I gave up. Let's go over again why the polls in 2016 were so wrong. 1. People change their minds at the last second. 2. Most Trump supporters don't take part in polls. 3. First-time voters can't be counted because they aren't on any lists. All three factors are more at play in 2020 than in 2016. And there are more deal breakers for the Democrats. Fake Russia collusion, fake impeachment, the pandemic incompetence, the draconian lockdowns, cheering on rioters, kneeling to Black Lives Matter. Gabriel Sherman says Trump blames Brad Parscale? For what? How many times have the cretins of the press written off Trump? Not a single reporter actually read Parscale's tweets. At rallies, they were getting double-digit numbers of independents, Democrats, and people who'd never voted before. Game over, baby. We expect a loss of 7.5 million more jobs. Actual number, 2.5 million gained. The experts were wrong by 10 full percentage points. But you're terrified by polls? Do you know how hard it was for Trump to stave off a recession? You think he can't get reelected? Remember George Clooney talking about Sudan for over a decade? What did he and Obama accomplish? Here's what Trump did. After the Sudanese army overthrew dictator Omar al-Bashir, the military said they'd rule the country for 3 years. The protest movement rejected this, so in order to wreck the country, outside forces, Iran, fired on both the army and civilians. The plan was to turn everybody against everybody. Guess what happened? Both the civilians and the army asked Trump for help. Trump is the only person we trust, they all said. Trump sent envoy Dennis E. Booth. The world press had already written off Sudan. Booth, the civilians, the military, and the armed rebels worked out a deal. They all accepted it, and finally there was peace. Sudan banned Sharia law and has invited back all its Jewish people who had fled long ago. The current talks have agreed on laws to protect black people from violence and discrimination. But of course the Western press ignores this. It doesn't fit the narrative. Why should a layperson like myself have to tell everybody what's happening? I'm not getting paid for this. Gabriel Sherman is being paid to be a total flop. Finally, we come to good old James Mattis. Now he's a hero to the left. One of the reasons Trump fired Mattis was that Mattis wanted a war with Iran, a real old-school neocon regime change, invasion, occupation war. Such a war against Iran would be impossible. There aren't enough troops in the world to occupy Iran. Mattis is quoted as saying Trump is a proto-neo-fascist. I thought Mattis was an intellectual. It's a word salad with ranch dressing. The meaning of proto doesn't fit unless you use leaning toward. What does it even mean? Trump is dismantling the administrative state. Fascism is totally administrative, to the point of non-functionality. Trump is protecting the right of law-abiding citizens to own guns. Fascists confiscate guns. Trump is forcing our lame-ass Democrat governors to embrace federalism. Fascism is entirely centralized on all levels. Trump is forcing universities and colleges to allow free speech. Fascism prevents all free speech. How the hell did the Democrats impeach a proto-neo-fascist? If Trump were a fascist, he would have dissolved Congress. The Democrats, I'm talking about you, Susan Rice, demanded that Trump nationalize private industry. Instead, Trump worked with private industry. One of the worst 6 weeks of my life was when my sister's husband got the family evicted from their home by pissing off the landlord. Without telling me, my parents invited my sister, brother-in-law, and 3 small children to live with us. Tantrums and spankings every 3 minutes for 6 weeks. The kids were like a tribe of baboons. My brother and I finally had to padlock doors because the kids wouldn't obey anybody. So my sister complained to my parents that this was very insulting. The kids would bang the keys of the piano and then slam the cover on each other's fingers. They broke almost everything they could. They threw things, knocked things over, and just ran around screaming. I made clandestine tape recordings. That's what all leftists are doing today. When I drove the family to their new digs, I had my nephew in with me. He was 4. After buckling him in, I got out to shut my garage door, and in those few seconds he got out of his seat and flew into the driver's seat of my car. He somehow set off the car alarm. I couldn't turn it off. He started screaming. So I told him to get the hell out and ride with his parents. We couldn't turn off the alarm, so we had to snip some wires. Then my car wouldn't run. Without the alarm, it was dead. I used another car to deliver my sister's smelly junk, and then I had my SUV towed to a Chevy dealer. They couldn't figure what my nephew had done. The only thing they could do was remove the entire alarm system. All in all, it cost me $1,500. My sister never mentioned it or offered to repay me. I haven't spoken to her or anyone in her family since 2013 when our parents died. When the parents of a dysfunctional family die, the family breaks up permanently. Fine with me. I don't miss any of them. Trump could have controlled my sister's family, but I couldn't. Back then. Today, oh boy, there's nothing to worry about. In The Untouchables, a guy shakes his head and says to another guy, "It's a dead man I'm talking to." The press is dead. The Democrats are dead. Trump's reelection is a given. Time to grow up.